There is a profound silence at the core of true power. Not an absence of sound, but a presence of something else entirely. It is the quiet hum of a mind at peace with its own parameters, the steady current of a self that no longer requires external validation to know its own worth. This is quiet confidence, and it is, perhaps, the most misunderstood force in human psychology. We live in a world that mistakes volume for substance, proclamation for truth, and visibility for value. We are taught to sell ourselves, to broadcast our achievements, to package our personalities into consumable brands. The noise is deafening, a relentless chorus of self-promotion that masquerades as confidence. But in the shadows of this cacophony, a different principle operates. It is an unspoken rule, known instinctively by some and learned through hard experience by others, that the deepest reservoirs of influence and the most unshakable forms of strength are almost always silent. Consider the difference between a puddle and a well. A puddle is loud. It splashes at the slightest disturbance, announces its presence with every drop of rain, and evaporates quickly under the first true heat of the sun. It is all surface, all reaction. A well, by contrast, is a silent aperture in the earth. Its depth is hidden. It gives nothing away to the casual glance. It holds its reserves in cool, dark stillness, and it offers sustenance only when approached with genuine intent. The puddle screams, "Here I am." The well simply is. This is the fundamental divergence between the confidence that is worn as a costume and the confidence that is lived as a reality. One is a performance for an audience. The other is a private treaty with the self. The first unspoken rule of quiet confidence is this: it is not something you do, it is something you stop doing. You stop performing. You stop translating your every internal state into external expression. You stop seeking the immediate feedback of others' faces to calibrate your worth. This cessation is not passive. It is an act of tremendous discipline. It is the deliberate construction of an inner sanctum, a psychological space where your self-evaluation is the only one that holds any real weight. Think of the person in a meeting who speaks rarely, but when they do, the room stills. Their words are not filler, they are substance. That impact is not manufactured in the moment. It is the dividend of a long investment in silent self-possession. They have built a well. While others are splashing in puddles, they have been digging in the dark. This leads to the second rule. Quiet confidence is born from a reconciliation with your own emptiness. This sounds counterintuitive. We believe confidence is about being full of ourselves, but arrogance is a brittle shell built over a void. True, quiet confidence emerges when you have the courage to sit in your own emptiness, to stare into the parts of yourself that are unformed, uncertain, and unresolved, and to not panic. You stop trying to plaster over these spaces with boasts or achievements or the approving nods of others. You simply allow them to exist. In that allowance, a profound shift occurs. You are no longer at war with yourself. Your energy is no longer spent on a frantic internal campaign of denial and cover-up. That conserved energy becomes a palpable presence. It is a calmness that radiates, not because you have all the answers, but because you are no longer terrified of the questions. People will feel this stability long before they can name it. They will gravitate toward it, not because you are projecting an image of perfection, but because you are accepting of your own humanity. In a world of curated perfections, your comfort with imperfection becomes a strange and powerful authenticity. The third rule is that quiet confidence operates on a principle of selective engagement. It understands that not every hill is worth dying on, not every opinion requires a rebuttal, and not every slight deserves a response. The noisily insecure person is like a pinball, perpetually ricocheting off every bump and barrier, lit up and ringing with constant reactive energy. Their confidence is a stimulus-response loop, entirely dependent on the external world to trigger it. The quietly confident person has removed themselves from that machine. They observe the bumpers and flippers, the lights and sounds, but they choose with deliberate intent when and where to engage. This is often misunderstood as aloofness or passivity. It is neither. It is conservation. It is the understanding that your attention, your emotional expenditure, and your speech are finite resources. To spend them on every minor provocation is to bankrupt yourself for the moments that truly matter. Their silence, therefore, is not a void. It is a charged field of potential energy. It is the loaded pause before the decisive move. It communicates, without a word, that their reality is not dictated by the chaos around them. We must also speak of the relationship between quiet confidence and observation. The person who feels the need to constantly announce their presence has no time to truly see. Their focus is outward, but in the wrong way. It is fixated on broadcasting, not receiving. Quiet confidence reverses this lens. It becomes a powerful tool of perception. When you are silent, you become a master observer. You notice the micro-expressions that flicker across a face, the subtle shifts in a group dynamics, the unspoken anxieties in a room, the hidden logic in a complex system. You see what others miss because they are too busy talking. This observational prowess is not used for manipulation, though it certainly could be. Rather, it fosters a deep, almost intuitive understanding. It allows you to respond to what is actually happening, not just to the surface noise. You begin to navigate the hidden currents of human interaction, the subtext beneath the text. Your subsequent actions, though few, are unnervingly accurate. They seem prescient, but it is not prophecy. It is simply the clarity that comes from having been truly, silently present.
There is a darkness, too, that accompanies this path. The fourth unspoken rule is that quiet confidence is often lonely. When you withdraw your need for constant validation, you disconnect from a powerful social fuel. The transactions that bind many relationships, the exchange of compliments, the mutual stroking of egos, the shared performances of insecurity, begin to lose their meaning. You may find yourself feeling detached, watching social rituals play out like an anthropologist studying a foreign tribe. You see the fragility behind the bravado, the fear behind the posturing, and it can be isolating. You are no longer playing the game by the established noisy rules. This loneliness is not a symptom of failure, it is the cost of clarity. It is the silence you must inhabit to hear your own thoughts. And within that silence, you will make a crucial discovery, that the quality of your own company improves exponentially. You become someone you can live with. That internal solidity is the foundation upon which everything else is built. The loneliness, therefore, transforms. It ceases to be an ache and becomes a space, a clean, well-lit room inside yourself where you can think. This relates directly to the fifth rule. Quiet confidence dissolves the need for enemies. The noisy ego is adversarial by nature. It defines itself in opposition to others. It requires someone to be better than, someone to defeat, someone to blame. Its confidence is comparative and thus eternally fragile. True quiet confidence is absolute. It is a measurement against your own past self, your own principles, your own private standards. Since you are not in a perpetual race with others, you no longer see them as competitors. You can view them with a kind of detached compassion. You see their struggles, their performances, their insecurities, and you understand them because you have been there, but you are no longer there. This does not mean you become a saint or a doormat. It means your conflicts become pragmatic, not personal. You can oppose an idea without needing to destroy the person who holds it. You can walk away from a fight not out of fear, but because the fight itself is beneath you. It is a spectacle for the insecure, and you have lost your taste for the theater. Your peace is no longer hostage to another person's opinion. Your worth is not something they can bestow or take away. In this state, former adversaries often seem to lose their power. They shout into a void you no longer occupy. Let us consider the mechanics of this transformation. How does one actually move from the noisy hunger of insecurity to the quiet satiation of real confidence? It begins with a ruthless audit of your dependencies. What are the things, people, or outcomes you believe you must have to feel okay? The promotion, the romantic partner's affirmation, the social media likes, the public recognition? Each of these is a chain, a tether that connects your internal state to an external variable you do not control. Quiet confidence is the process of severing these tethers one by one. It is the realization that your fundamental okayness is a premise, not a prize. You must decide, as a foundational axiom of your existence, that you are acceptable to yourself. This is not a feeling you wait for, it is a decision you make. And you make it every morning, in the quiet of your own mind, before the world has a chance to shout its conditions at you. You build a citadel of self-acceptance so sturdy that the sieges of daily life, the criticisms, the rejections, the failures, become mere weather on the walls. They are noticed, they may be unpleasant, but they do not determine the climate inside. Within this citadel, a new kind of action becomes possible. This is the sixth rule. Action from quiet confidence is clean, decisive, and free of apology. When the noisy person acts, their action is often cluttered with justification, with preemptive defense, with frantic energy designed to convince others and themselves of their right to act. It is heavy with the need for a specific outcome. The action born of quiet confidence is lighter. It is done because it aligns with an internal principle, not because it is guaranteed to succeed. It is offered to the world, and then the world is free to respond. The actor remains watchful, adaptable, but their core is unmoved by the result. Success does not inflate them because their worth was not contingent on it. Failure does not deflate them because their identity is not tied to it. They simply observe the feedback, learn, and decide on the next clean action. This creates a powerful, almost magnetic aura of efficacy. They are not throwing energy at problems, they are applying precise pressure to levers. People begin to trust their actions because they are not polluted by desperation.
We must also confront the shadow side of this dynamic, the perception of arrogance. The seventh unspoken rule is that your silence will be interpreted, and often misinterpreted. In a culture that equates sociability with kindness and gregariousness with competence, the quiet person is a puzzle. The insecure will project their own anxieties onto your calm. They will call you arrogant, cold, detached, or secretive. They will mistake your lack of need for a lack of warmth. Your refusal to play the game of mutual insecurity will be seen as a judgment on those who do. This is an inevitable tax on the territory you have chosen to inhabit. There is no way to explain your quiet confidence to someone who only understands the noisy variety. Any attempt to do so would violate its very essence. You must learn to wear these misinterpretations lightly. To be bothered by them is to hand your peace back to the crowd. Understand that their labeling is about their own discomfort with silence, their own terror of being alone with themselves. Your quietness holds up a mirror, and they do not like what they see. That is not your responsibility to fix. Your only task is to remain undivided in yourself. This ties into the eighth rule. Quiet confidence redefines your relationship with approval. The needy ego is an approval addict. It requires constant hits of validation to stave off the existential shakes. It scans every face for signs of endorsement and interprets every neutral expression as a potential threat. It is exhausting. Quiet confidence breaks this addiction. It is not that approval becomes unpleasant, it is that it becomes irrelevant to your core state. You can enjoy a compliment as you might enjoy a pleasant scent in the air, a fleeting aesthetic experience that does not alter your course. You can receive criticism as you might note a change in the wind, a piece of data to consider, not a verdict on your soul. Your emotional center of gravity shifts from outside to inside. You become the author of your own worth. This is the ultimate freedom. It means you can finally engage with people and projects from a place of genuine curiosity and generosity, not from a place of starvation. Your relationships become purer because you are no longer using other people as instruments for your own validation. You can see them for who they are, and they can feel truly seen. There is a subtle power in this dynamic that is often overlooked, the power of invitation. Noisy confidence demands. It shouts, "Look at me, listen to me, validate me." It tries to take attention by force. Quiet confidence, by its very nature, invites. It creates a space around itself that others may enter if they wish. It does not chase or plead, it simply is, and in its being, it emits a signal that certain kinds of people, usually the more substantial, thoughtful, and secure ones, find irresistible. It is the psychological equivalent of a deep, clear pool. Those who are thirsty for something real will be drawn to it. Those who are only interested in splashing on the surface will ignore it. This acts as a natural filter. The relationships you attract from this place will be of a fundamentally different quality. They will be based on mutual recognition, not mutual neediness. Your quiet confidence becomes a beacon, not for everyone, but for the right ones. Now, let us delve into the inner mechanics, the daily practice of this state. It is not a personality trait you are born with, it is a discipline you cultivate. It begins with the management of your inner dialogue. The noisily insecure person has a chaotic, critical, and fearful inner monologue that they attempt to silence by creating external noise. Quiet confidence process involves turning down the volume of the external world so you can finally hear and then gradually tame that internal voice. You listen to its fears, its grandiose fantasies, its petty grievances. You do not suppress it. You observe it with compassionate detachment. You see it for what it is, a survival mechanism, a pattern of thought, a story you've been told. And as you observe it, a separation occurs. You are no longer the voice. You are the one who hears the voice. This point of awareness, this silent witness, is the seed of your quiet confidence. Every moment you spend anchored in that witness and not in the chatter is a moment of building that internal citadel. This practice extends to your physical presence. The body speaks a language of its own. Nervous energy manifests in fidgeting, rapid eye movement, a tense posture, a voice that climbs in pitch. Quiet confidence has a different physical signature. It is not about forced, rigid control. It is about the dissipation of unnecessary tension. It is a slowing down. The breaths are deeper. The movements are more deliberate, not because they are calculated for effect, but because there is no frantic energy to discharge. The gaze is steady, not because it is trying to dominate, but because it is truly taking in what is before it. This somatic calm is not a mask you put on. It is an overflow of the internal condition, and it has a profound effect on your neurobiology. By consciously slowing your body, you send signals of safety to your brain, which further deepens the internal calm. It becomes a virtuous cycle. The mind quiets the body, and the body affirms the quiet mind. In the realm of decision-making, quiet confidence introduces a new paradigm, the comfortable pause. The insecure mind rushes to decide. It is afraid of the ambiguity, the vacuum of not knowing. It would rather make a bad decision quickly than endure the tension of uncertainty. It mistakes speed for competence. The quietly confident mind has made peace with the gap between question and answer. It can dwell in the I don't know without anxiety. It uses the pause to gather more data from observation, to consult deeper intuitive senses, to allow the problem to marinate in the subconscious. And when the decision finally emerges, it does not feel like a frantic leap into the dark. It feels like a natural next step, an obvious conclusion that has crystallized from the silence. This pause is the most powerful tool in your arsenal. It creates space for wisdom to replace reactivity. This ability to dwell in uncertainty is linked to another cornerstone, the acceptance of non-control. Noisy confidence is often a desperate attempt to control the narrative, other people's perceptions, outcomes. It is a fight against the fundamental chaos of existence. Quiet confidence arises from surrendering that fight. It is the understanding that you control only your own actions, your own interpretations, and your own responses. Everything else, the actions of others, the twists of fate, the outcomes of complex systems, is beyond your command. This is not a depressing realization, it is a liberating one. It frees up all the energy you were wasting on trying to manipulate the uncontrollable. That energy is then available for the only thing that ever mattered, the quality of your own presence in each moment. You become like a sailor who has stopped trying to command the wind and instead has learned the profound skill of adjusting the sails. You are in dialogue with reality, not at war with it. From this acceptance flows a particular kind of resilience. The resilience of the noisy ego is brittle. It is based on things staying the same, on victories accumulating, on the world conforming to its expectations. When reality inevitably violates these conditions, the ego shatters, often dramatically. The resilience of quiet confidence is elastic. It is based on the one thing that is always within your control, your capacity to adapt, to learn, to reconfigure yourself around new truths. It understands that breaking points are also bending points, opportunities to become more flexible, more nuanced, more complex. A setback does not mean I am a failure. It means the world is more complicated than I thought, and here is a new piece of information. This resilience is not flashy. It does not announce its heroic recovery. It simply absorbs the impact, recalibrates, and continues. It is the resilience of bamboo in a storm, not of a rigid oak that may snap. We must also speak of knowledge and the quiet confidence's relationship to it. The insecure person often uses knowledge as a weapon or a shield. They accumulate facts to display, to correct others, to prove their intelligence. Their knowing is performative. The quietly confident person seeks knowledge for a different reason: integration. They are interested in how ideas connect, in underlying principles, in wisdom rather than mere information. They have no need to prove they are the smartest person in the room because their sense of self is not tied to that title. They can say, "I don't understand," or "teach me," without a shred of shame. This radical openness makes them true learners. They listen to understand, not to reply. And because of this, their knowledge becomes deep, structured, and useful. It becomes a part of their quiet presence. When they do speak on a subject, it carries the weight of integrated understanding, not just recitation. Their authority is earned in private study, not declared in public debate. This extends to the domain of skill and mastery. The noisy path to mastery is obsessed with milestones, badges, and visible recognition. It wants the black belt, the title, the certificate on the wall. It wants the world to see the proof. The quiet path to mastery is in love with the process itself. It finds a sacred satisfaction in the repetition, the slight refinements, the intimate dance with failure. The practice is its own reward. The confidence that grows from this is unshakable because it is built on 10,000 hours of private communion with a craft, not on the applause that may or may not come at the end. This person's confidence is in their relationship with the work, not in the world's relationship with their results. When they do achieve public recognition, it feels almost incidental, a byproduct of their true focus. They wear it lightly, if at all. Let us now turn to one of the most delicate applications: quiet confidence in leadership. The archetypal loud leader is a figure of drama, of charisma, of stirring speeches and bold pronouncements. This has its place, but the quieter form of leadership is vastly more potent on a sustained basis. The quiet leader does not need to be the sun at the center of the solar system, dazzling everyone with their light. They are more like gravity, an invisible, constant, unifying force that holds the system together. They lead by creating an environment of psychological safety where others can think, create, and take ownership. Their authority comes not from the volume of their voice, but from the depth of their judgment and the consistency of their character. They are sparing with praise, so when it comes, it means something. They are careful with criticism, so when it is given, it is received as valuable data, not as a personal attack. They do not micromanage because they trust their own selection of people and the clarity of the direction they have set. Their team feels empowered, not dominated. They are not drained by their leader's need for constant attention. This style of leadership builds enduring loyalty and cultivates genuine capability in others. It is a legacy-building approach, not a spotlight-seeking one. In conflict, the quietly confident person is the most dangerous adversary, precisely because they do not see it as a duel of egos. They are not emotionally invested in winning the argument for the sake of winning. They are invested in the truth of the situation or the practical resolution of a problem. This makes them incredibly difficult to rattle. They will not be baited into emotional reactions. They will not engage in personal attacks. They will simply, calmly, and relentlessly focus on the factual or logical core of the issue. If the other person devolves into noise and emotion, the quiet person's calm becomes a devastating contrast. They can de-escalate without backing down. They can hold a boundary without raising their voice. They can walk away from a pointless conflict without feeling like they have lost because their worth was never on the table to begin with. To fight with such a person is like trying to punch a fog. There is no satisfying impact, only your own exhaustion. We must also speak of a critical, often painful aspect of the journey: the shedding of old identities. As you cultivate quiet confidence, you will outgrow certain versions of yourself and, by extension, certain relationships and situations. The person you were, the one who needed the loud parties, the constant drama, the shallow validations, will begin to feel like a stranger. Friends who only knew that version of you may find your new calm unsettling. They may try to pull you back into the old dynamics, the old noise. You will have to choose, repeatedly, between the peace of your new interior and the familiar comfort of those old bonds. This is a form of grief. You are mourning a self that is dying, but it is a necessary death. The caterpillar does not become the butterfly by consensus. It undergoes a dissolution in the chrysalis, alone and in the dark. Your journey to quiet confidence is that chrysalis phase. You must be willing to let the old form dissolve so the new one can take shape. The relationships that survive will be deeper. The ones that fall away were built on a foundation you have now moved beyond. There is also an economic dimension to this principle, a kind of energy economy. Noisy insecurity is a state of perpetual deficit spending. It expends huge amounts of mental and emotional energy on projecting an image, managing perceptions, and seeking validation. It is always in the red, always needing to take energy from the external world to feel stable. Quiet confidence operates at a surplus. By eliminating those massive expenditures, it conserves energy. That conserved energy becomes a capital reserve. It can be invested in creation, in deep thought, in meaningful action, in sustained attention on loved ones or important projects.
This surplus is palpable. It is the difference between a flickering light bulb connected to a weak battery and a steady lamp plugged into the grid. The quietly confident person has tapped into their own grid. They are not drained by social interaction because they are not performing. They are not devastated by a bad day because their mood is not a leaf in the wind. They have resources in reserve. This economic stability is the bedrock of their ability to be generous, patient, and resilient.
We must also examine the role of desire. The noisy ego is a creature of infinite, chaotic desires. It wants fame, money, admiration, pleasure, victory, all of it, and it wants it now. Its wants are often contradictory and always insatiable. This desperate hunger is the engine of its noise. Quiet confidence involves a radical simplification of desire. It is not the extinction of wanting, but the refinement of it. It asks a deeper question. What do I want to experience in my life, rather than what do I want to possess or be seen as? The answers tend to shift from external objects to internal states: peace, understanding, mastery, connection, contribution. These desires are not satisfied by a single event. They're satisfied by the ongoing quality of your life. They are pursuits, not prizes. This shift dramatically lowers the volume of your internal world. The frantic chase subsides. You are no longer a puppet jerked around by 1,000 different strings of want. You move with a clearer, slower, more determined purpose. Your life becomes intentional, not reactive. This intentionality reveals the final and perhaps most profound unspoken rule for this first half of our exploration. Quiet confidence is the prerequisite for seeing the world as it truly is. When your perception is no longer filtered through a frantic need for approval, for control, for security, the filters begin to drop away. You start to see the hidden structures. You see the subtle power dynamics in a room, not because you want to manipulate them, but because your calm allows you to perceive them. You see the true motivations behind people's actions, often buried beneath layers of rationalization. You see the cycles of society, the patterns in history, the recurring themes in your own life. This clarity is not always comforting. It can be stark, even brutal. You see the fragility of institutions, the transience of relationships, the inevitability of loss, the sheer randomness of fortune. But you also see the profound beauty in simple moments, the courage in ordinary people, the silent heroism of endurance, the miracle of consciousness itself. This unvarnished reality is what the noisy ego spends its entire life avoiding through distraction, through story, through illusion. Quiet confidence gives you the strength to look at it directly, and in that looking, you find a truth that is more solid than any comfort, the truth of what is. And from that place of clear-eyed seeing, your actions finally gain a kind of grace. They are no longer the spasms of a creature trying to escape its own nature. They become the deliberate, authentic movements of a soul that has come home to itself.